There will be a cyber war or a terrorist attack over the internet. Hackers, what are some scary things about our technology that aren't necessarily public knowledge? At the end of the video I will explain how to set up a hacker-proof password. Penetration tester, here. I would say the scariest thing I run into on a daily basis is how shoddy in the security sense most of the code out there is. I deal mainly with web applications, and some of the things the developers come up with are amazing. It might be super fast and functional, but horrible security-wise. The number of big development firms that have no security cycle or QA cooked into their dev cycle is astonishing. The second is just how little understanding in the general public there is about how tech actually works, what it's doing. Everyone uses it for everything, yet there are people out there that are in charge of commerce apps that take your financial data that don't know what a web browser is. I actually think the general population is getting more tech illiterate. As devices have become more user-friendly, the level of IT knowledge required to use them has gone down dramatically. So what we have now is the equivalent of a bunch of toddlers running around with bazookas and not knowing what makes them go boom. You can use a very basic and very old exploit called ARP spoofing, or ARP poisoning, to intercept any traffic on your LAN, which on something like an office or college network may include hundreds of people. You can use this method to record everything they do on the internet and even extract any usernames and passwords they may use, Facebook, Gmail, etc. But what about SSL? You use a MIM attack. But won't that throw a cert error? Yes, but most people ignore those. Bottom line is be careful what you do on public and semi-public, office, networks and try to just wait until you get home if it's sensitive data. Certainly don't do any banking on the airport or hotel Wi-Fi. The best way to get someone's password is to just ask for it. I really can't believe how many people still refuse to believe this, but administrators will never ever ask for your password. Stop giving that stuff out. If you get an email asking for your password, it's always a scam. Always always always. No exceptions. Seriously, people don't use the same password for anything. Hacker 101 is that once you compromise one account, ideally email, you go through their email notifications to see what other accounts they have. Then you go to those sites and try to log in with the same password. It usually works. Also, you really shouldn't even use the same username for different sites, because if I crack an account other than your email address I can still just Google your username or try sites I think you might visit. So your Reddit username should not be your Gmail username and they certainly should not be the same password. You can rather easily build at home a device which intercepts GSM, cell phone, data in the area. You can also easily build or buy a device which jams cell phones in the area. I should note that it's a felony to use or possess these. Yes, we can use malware to remotely activate your webcam, microphones, and whatever else is plugged into your computer. Cover the lens when you're not using it. Ditto on cell phones, but there's no much you can do about that short of removing the battery. Everyone should know about ATM skimmers. Google it. Large parts of hacking rely on exploiting the user, not the machine. We'll try to trick you or trap you into doing something stupid. It's much easier and more reliable than trying to actually compromise software. Most penetration testing firms have a 100% success rate when they're allowed to exploit users. You can have the strongest IT system in the world. You can spend billions on software and hardware protection, but if I can ring a new employee called Kathy and say, "Hey, Kathy, you're new here, right? Yeah, it's John from IT security. There's been a breach and I need sysadmin password quickly so I can patch it up." "Okay," says Kathy, under stress to fix the problem, and there I have it. I got the password. It's called social engineering, and 9 times out of 10 that's how people hack accounts. Those browser warnings about untrusted SSL certificates that everyone automatically bypasses could be an indicator that you're a victim of a man-in-the-middle attack. In other words, your data is being routed through an attacker's system, possibly through an ARP or DNS spoofing attack. By bypassing the warning messages, you have, possibly, just agreed to trust an attacker-supplied, self-signed SSL certificate. This isn't the case 100% of the time, but it's finally a reason to pause and scrutinize the warning. Nearly every single Comcast router I've ever tested is vulnerable to a WPS, Wi-Fi protected setup, authorization bypass vulnerability. Disable WPS to protect yourself against it. Else any butthole can join your WPA2 protected Wi-Fi network in 10 hours or less with zero knowledge of your passphrase. Many office buildings have secure areas that require an ID badge for ingress access. However, when exiting said secure area, a proximity sensor detects the presence of a person on the secure side, and unlocks the door without requiring an ID badge. It's possible to abuse the behavior of the proximity sensor on the secure side of the door using a can of compressed air, effectively bypassing the need to have a valid ID badge. Physical storage doesn't last for as long as people think. CDs and DVDs have a finite lifespan. If you have photos backed up on a disc in the attic from the 90s, they could potentially fail if you ever wanted what was on them. Same thing with USB flash drives and HDDs a decade or two before they fail. This isn't a problem right now, but imagine a world where everything is stored digitally as opposed to hard copy, which also has a finite lifespan. Your grandkids won't have any of your pictures or files because they will all be gone. Sure, you could do online backups, but even then, how long will that service be around? How many times has a company gone out of business taking its media with them? Of course, Google can keep RAID arrays in different locations around the world and replace failing drives. Yes, you can keep your data online, but an online backup is still stored on physical media. Where will that company be in 100 years? I'm a grad student studying cybersecurity. People have hacked cars and most other forms of transportation. These hacks have included the ability to stop your brakes from working and moving your steering wheel. While the knowledge is currently held by a small group of people, it never stays that way, and I predict that murder by hacking or trolls will be old news before 2030. If the GPS system were to ever fail, just like GLONASS did, the economic damage would easily be in the hundreds of billions, as financial institutions depend on GPS for timing. Note that this technology was developed 19 years ago based on a 41-year-old theory. One misprogrammed counter could bring it all down if it wasn't caught. Everything from power plants to dams to oil pipelines still uses SCADA protocol developed with 1990s-era security practices. These systems are connected to the internet. One worm on the scale of I love you built to target these systems would have wide-reaching real-world consequences, including cutting off municipal water supplies. Taking all of those things together gets us the scariest part of the picture. In the next decade, I predict that there will be a cyber war or a terrorist attack over the internet. People will die and the economic damage will be equal to, if not greater than, a bombing of a major city. This will provoke a backlash that will fundamentally rewrite the way that we interact with our computers. I cannot even hazard a guess as to what direction that will take us, but if Computer Fraud and Abuse Act is anything to go by, it will not be pretty. Most hacked accounts, be it Facebook, mail or others, aren't done by nerds typing quickly on a console, but by malicious people who have basic knowledge of computer and exploit other people's stupidity or by gathering some information. Example, lost password, secret question, what's your favorite food? Most of the time it's pizza. Almost all industry computers, think controllers for huge factories, power plants, water reclamation, distance heating, etc., have well-known default passwords or even hard-coded admin accounts. Back in the day, this was not a huge problem because you would run them on private networks with no connection to the internet. Nowadays, the internet is available everywhere and much cheaper than private networks, so many of these industry computers are now reachable from the internet. People that know what they are doing would only make them accessible over a VPN, but there is a very large number of people that shouldn't be allowed anywhere near a keyboard. Number 1. Metadata. Almost every consumer device is designed to track the movements and activities of owner. Digital cameras, cell phones, scanners, printers, camcorders, all save files that are stamped with metadata, date, time and serial number of the device. Printers put a tiny encoded serial number in the corner in almost invisible yellow ink. If you post a naked picture to r/gonewild and use the same camera to post pictures to Facebook, perverts, companies and intelligence agencies can track you by the metadata and use it to build a detailed picture of your life by linking online accounts that may appear separate to the untrained eye. Number 2. Databases, online analytical processing, sometimes referred to as big data. This is something not many people, even techies, are fully aware of. The power of databases is extraordinary. To merge databases about people, all you need is a common unique identifier. This could be a SSN, a telephone number, an email address, but also something less tangible, like a signature generated from your browser habits. How many people really visit the sites that you do on a daily basis? Your browser settings, screen resolution, fonts installed, preferences set, etc. All you need is one common unique identifier to merge two databases containing potentially millions of records about millions of people. There is a huge black market for databases. Hackers steal databases and put them on BitTorrent. Companies go out of business. Often the most valuable asset during liquidation is the customer database. There are companies, agencies and individuals who collect and merge databases in order to harvest marketing info, or simply sell access to it as a service. Almost every time you hear about a data breach and you are asked to change your password, it's likely that all other information you sent to that company is also in the hands of somebody untrustworthy. Companies often encrypt, hash, salt their password fields. They don't protect user data in the same way as it's not practical for them to do so. Number 3. Cryptography. People need to learn how to encode their messages, to inform themselves about applications that can be trusted, channels of communication, that use an openly auditable, peer-reviewed process in its development. If these applications don't yet exist, we collectively need to start funding them as basic, simple-to-use tools of communication. Number 4. Centralized systems, aka the cloud. Okay, the cloud is a loaded term. It's a buzzword in IT with two meanings. One meaning is hosting of server and bandwidth provided by companies like Amazon, Azure, etc. You are an IT developer who has an application in mind for 100 servers, but might not need that many, then this is great. The other meaning of the cloud is when a company asks you to do something that would be normally done on your local PC, on their server. This is a bad thing. What they have done is renamed centralized computing common in the 1970s, where you had to ask an authority for permission to run code, and were only allowed to do what you wanted after receiving approval. This architecture is inherently authoritarian and undermines the power of the user. When Adobe moves Photoshop to the Creative Cloud, they are asking you to trust them to store all your work in progress. If these companies go out of business, or if they upgrade the software, or choose to double the price, you have a problem. You lose access to all your previous work, you can't export or save your files, and you are sharing your files with a third party. Same goes for Dropbox, Office 365, Google Docs, but even things we take for granted, web-based email. If webmail services were secure, why do businesses individually pay for expensive mail servers, software and maintenance? Number 5. The cost of free. People know this but have not thought about it deeply enough. The expression "if you're not paying, you're the product" completely rings true. Number 6. You're paying too much for crap software, with the amount we all pay in software licenses each year, for basically the same thing with a few new features and a little window dressing. For a fraction of this we can fund open source software developments that can be used for more. Did you know that you can use VLC Player to record anything to a file, stream from your webcam to the world, screen cap/stream your desktop? Projects like Media Goblin let you set up your own YouTube-type media sharing site. Over the past decade, consumer OSs and ISPs have had the server-based features removed so that they can be sold back to us at a premium. General-purpose computing and the promise of the internet is that anyone connected can be a server, can be a service provider, and not just a consumer. Password protection tips from Radio TTS. The major problem these days is to remember 100 passwords. Therefore you need a system to remember them all. Here is my system. Think of a very random stupid long sentence that includes the name of a website. The sentence should at least have 8 words. For example, I am a major butthole when it comes to cybersecurity, but I will try to improve security on #Facebook. Remember that sentence. Now take the first letter of each word except the last word. And pay attention to capitalization and don't forget the exclamation mark or dot and your favorite number in the end. The password is now IamWixCSB_FK!5. For the last word in the sentence, you use the first and last letter. This is why there is a K in my sentence. This way you have 2 letters that change with the platform you use. The same password for Twitter would be IamWixCSB_TR!5. This method is good, because you only have to remember one sentence, and because a password is more secure the more digits it has. Anything with more than 10 digits is very hard to hack and would take years to guess, even for a supercomputer. And no hacker can connect the dots when he has hacked one of your accounts. The hacker butthole will not know that the TR in the end means Twitter. He needs at least 2 of your passwords to figure out the connection. And it also fits the security requirements of any page, since it has capital letters, numbers and special characters. Anyway, thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more eye-opening videos about the danger from the internet. Check the original Reddit thread for edits and questions answered from the commenters. Find the link in the description below. And please share your own thoughts about the subject.